Howdy everyone, Tasty here, and thank you for joining me on another random gaming news, where today we're going to go over just a couple of quick mentions, plus we're going to talk about the new Half-Life game that just got announced, and it was just kind of dropped out of nowhere. Then we're going to go over the Game Awards and what's surrounding them this year, because it's a little bit interesting, I found. Plus we're going to go over the Game of the Week and what my pick was for this week's game. Don't forget to check out the other YouTube channel because I find them interesting and I think you will too. There's a link down in the description, plus the special links that I leave down there for you guys as well. Please share this video as that does help out the channel the most. Hitting the like button is another way to help out the channel. Make sure that you are leaving your comments down below after this video so that way you guys can have a chance to get picked for the comment of the week. Make sure you are subscribing with the bell icon turned on so that way you guys will be notified of my next video. Let's go ahead and start the show. First up for the quick mentions here is that Rebellion Studios is getting into the board game business. They've opened up a new division inside their studios called Rebellion Unplugged, and they'll be putting out Sniper Elite, the board game. And I'll be very interested to see how that's all going to play out, because one of the best things about Sniper Elite is that you get to actually do slow motion nut shots on people across the map. Larian Studios is also getting in the mix here when they said that they were actually going to be making a board game based on Divinity Original Sin 2, which actually launched a Kickstarter of $160,000. And Rebellion Unplugged will actually put out their own Kickstarter. It's just going to be coming in about sometime next year. And I'll be very interested to see how this all plays out, because I myself am actually somebody that does enjoy a board game every now and again, as well as, Magic the Gathering or anything, nerdy like that, as well as, video games. Next, we have a new patent for the PS5 controller, and there isn't really a whole lot of difference between the PS4 and the PS5 controller, but some of the notable things that I wanted to mention here is that it does seem just a tiny bit smaller and a little bit fatter around the handles there. Not only that, it will also be charging with USB-C and will not have a light bar at the top for tracking for the PSVR, and we'll definitely get some more information the closer we actually get to the release of the PS5. Valve made probably one of the biggest announcements of the month when they made a new Twitter account earlier this year. They just now actually put out a tweet for that Twitter account that stated that they actually are making a new Half-Life game called Half Life Alyx, and it will be a flagship VR game for their Index headset. Also, in that same tweet, they did state that they will be showing off some of the gameplay and stuff Thursday, so that would have been yesterday, and they did actually show off a quite bit of it here, and let me tell you, it actually makes me want to get a VR headset. How pretty and good this game actually looks. I just don't know if I'd be forking out $1,000 for that Index headset there. The game is actually going to be more of a bridge style game, where it's going to be bridging the gap between Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2, where it's going to be focused on Alyx Vance and her father Eli, while they're actually trying to rebuild the Alliance, or build it up there, to face the Columbine alien occupation that's on Earth. Valve also announced that they are making more Half-Life games and that they're already in the works, and I really can't wait to see what's going to come of this, because Half-Life is one of those games that only really comes out when there's a lot of like a really big step in innovation for video games, and that's what Half-Life did. It kind of pushed the bounds of what a video game was at the time and how they can play it and how well it looked. And it is still today garnered as one of the best games that has been put out by anybody. And I really can't wait to see what Half-Life Alyx has to come when it does come out on March 2020. So there has been some controversy that's been surrounding the Game Awards this year. The reason being is that there are two games that seem to be getting a lot more nominees than any other games, which isn't really out of the ordinary that two games or a game would get more nominees than another game in the Game Awards, just because if somebody likes the game and it's a good game, it's going to be nominated a lot of times. And Death Stranding and Control in and of themselves are two good games, but I don't know if they're garnered as much praise as they've gotten. But Death Stranding did actually get 9 nominees for the Game Awards, and Control got 8. The problem that people seem to be having is that Jeff Keighley is actually in Death Stranding and has a close relationship with Hideo Kojima, who is actually the creator of Death Stranding. The only problem that I really have with that is that he doesn't really have any sway on what games are going to be in what categories. That's actually picked by a bunch of media outlets or media people and game developers and stuff from around the world. So this is something that, people actually thought that this is a game that deserved a lot of praise, and it is getting getting that. So, and it would be kind of hard for Jeff Keighley to go around to all the other game studios and media outlets and convince them to put Death Stranding as this many nominees, as one, that would leave them in a space that, you know, somebody might spill the beans because there are too many people getting in on this conspiracy. Next is that, you know, that's kind of morally bankrupt in a way, because you're kind of lying to the consumer at that point when you are, you know, going to an outlet and asking them to do something that they may not otherwise do just because you want your game to look better than every other game. Next here is that Control, you know, it's a little bit harder to explain this one, but it is still something I feel, you know, if people liked it, then it should have got those nominees. Basically what happened with Control is that it didn't really sell that well this year, but it is a game that got an 82 on Metacritic, which is actually pretty high when it comes to games you know, being scored on Metacritic. It still is in the green, and a lot of critics actually praise this game for being, you know, really good. It had a great story and good gameplay. I personally have not played the game, so I would not be able to tell you any of that, but the Game Awards are not really focused on how well a game sold. It's more focused on the game itself and the media outlets voting on which game they actually liked, and that doesn't really sway their vote anyway if, you know, how big a game is or how much it's sold. Yeah, a lot of the times it is bigger games that are being voted this many times, and Control is somewhat of a bigger game coming from 505 Games. But it is something, you know, if the critics liked it and they want to see it get some praise, they will give it nominees, and that's just what's happening here, and it's not a bad thing. That's what the Game Awards is about. These outlets voting on games that they actually liked playing, and that's, you know, kind of not something that I see as a problem. People should just back up a little bit, let the Game Awards happen, and we'll just kind of see what happens. But I do find it a little odd that Death Stranding got as many nominees as it did. Not to say that it shouldn't get any awards, because I do feel that it was a good game and it had a great story behind it. I just don't know if it garnered that many nominees for 9 different awards, just because it is very divisive game, because not a lot of people, you know, it's kind of a mixed bag of things when people were putting out the reviews and everything. It did get very good on Metacritic and a little fuzzy on the actual number there, but it is something that we'll just have to wait and see what actually happens, because just because a game is nominated that many times doesn't necessarily mean that it already is going to get 9 awards. So I just want to urge everybody just to calm down a little bit, let the Game Awards happen, and just see what goes on. Now it's time for your favorite part of the video, where I go over Tasty's Pick of the Week. I give you my hot take on a game that I've been playing throughout the week, and this week the game is going to be Pokemon Sword. And I've been having an absolute blast actually going through the game. Overall, I feel like this is a great Pokemon experience when it does come to the game. I feel like it's got a lot that veterans are going to like of the series, plus it brings a lot of new things to the table that mostly work. For example, you know, I really did like the way that the Dynamaxing made your Pokemon look. It kind of changes them up a little bit when they do grow larger. Like Charizard, he actually gets fire wings whenever he grows up, and a little fire necklace and everything. It's kind of awesome. You know, I also did like the 3D models of the game. I felt like they were actually a lot better than most of the other titles in the series. Some of the things I didn't really like was the weather system. Like in my neck of the woods, we have a saying that if you don't like the weather, just wait 5 minutes and it's going to change. But in Pokemon, take a couple steps and it's going to change. The weather system is next level in this game, because 1 second you're going to be in a sandstorm, next you're going to be in a blizzard, after that you're going to be in some harsh sun. And that's just something that I found a little disorienting kind of going through the game, but I don't really feel like they could fix that, because it is something that, you know, the map is a little bit smaller, so they have to fit these weather systems in somewhere. Another thing is the wildlands. I kind of felt a little bit disorienting, because the Pokemon is supposed to be popping up in the grass and just kind of being there and stuff, but it's one of those things that you should be able to see them from a distance, I kind of felt like, and it was a little disorienting kind of riding by some of the grass and just needing to get to the next area to heal my Pokemon, and 3 Pokemon pop up out of nowhere, and I've got to run even faster and try to dodge them to not get into a battle, because I don't have anybody, you know, really to defend myself with. And that's probably more on me, but either or there. It's just something that is a little bit disorienting. But another thing I really did like about the game is the surprise trading mechanic. I felt it oddly addicting, because you're going to trade just a random Pokemon that you have in your box or your party that you have a double of, if, you know, hopefully, or one you just don't really care about. you can trade this out to some random smo on the internet and you're going to get a Pokemon back. A lot of the times you're going to get one that you probably already have, but when you do get that one that you don't have, you're like, this is awesome, and you feel a sense of satisfaction out of that surprise trading. And it is something you don't have to actually sit there and do the trading the whole time. You can put up your surprise trade, go do a couple things, get a notification that it's ready, and then go get your Pokemon with a cute little cutscene there. And I really would say that this game is a solid 7 out of 10. I don't really feel like it's a $60 price tag, so you might wait until you can get it on sale, maybe even Black Friday, because that is coming up, and maybe get it more around $40, because I really feel like that's what the game is worth. Well, everybody, thank you for stopping in for another Random Gaming News. That's going to be our video here for today. Remember, if you guys did make it to the end, to leave your comments down in the comments below, as I will be picking one of them for the pick of the week. Also, remember to check out that other YouTuber that I leave down in the description, because I find them interesting. I really think that you guys will too. And while you're at it, check out those special links that I have down there for you as well, because they are made specially for you. Also, please share this video if you remember, because that does help out the channel the most. Hitting the like button is another way to help out the channel, and while you're doing all that, why don't you hit the subscribe button with the bell icon turned on so you can be notified of when I make my next video. As always, I have been Tasty, this is Random Gaming News, and have a wonderful gaming night.